Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and in today's PTR build, raid trinkets and a couple dungeon trinkets, mainly the new ones from Tazavesh, are now available for testing on PTR. A couple of them have been buffed in a sense, a couple have been nerfed. There's actually one trinket right now, spoilers, Cube, that has actually been nerfed on PTR, but hasn't been documented anywhere. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, and also look at the new trinkets, how they function, some unique interactions here and there, and I guess talk about the overall potential they might have heading into 9.1 and Sanctum of Domination. Now, in the last video, I teased the big spoiler today, I guess earlier today, on stream. Before we get into the actual video, check it out. Y'all are looking to nitpick a true rank 1 Warlock right now. There's no nitpicking here. There's no critiquing my play. I'm obviously better. I'm obviously built different. I'm obviously at the top of the pyramid here. Y'all ain't gonna find nothing, all right? Kill boss. Please kill boss. Please kill boss. Please. No, dude. Come on, dude. Come on. Please kill boss. Please kill them. No. If I play the event at full power, bring it nerfed, man, okay? There's a reason they schedule it at like 11 in the morning my time. They know if I come in at full strength, it's game over, all right? We need the Rapture. Let's launch the bolt. Bolt? It was a 40k bolt, dude. Wait, what's going on, dude? What's going on right now? All right, Ian, juice me. Come on, juice me. Come on. All right, here it is. Here it is, boys. The big crit. There it is, dude. It's 75k. There it is, dude. Finally. There it is. The big hit. 75k. We're done. We're done. It's over. It's over. For those of you who didn't take away, I guess didn't understand what was going on there, I have indeed joined Complexity. The organization is a streamer / content creator. I am incredibly excited about it. It's an amazing opportunity, and I want to thank Complexity as well as you guys on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, in Discord, everywhere. On Patreon, thank you for all the support, guys. Without you all, this would not be possible. We're closing in on 50,000 subs on YouTube, which is actually insane, and I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support. So now, if you guys are interested in acquiring any weak auras, profiles, add-ons, anything you see here, it's all indeed available to you guys for free on my Twitch. If you want to swing by and grab it, feel free to do so. Also, once again, huge shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much for support. Heads up, the 9.1 Sanctum of Domination Warlock spreadsheet is indeed now live. The tier 3 Felguard rank of my Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that. Now, this week, technically on Thursday and tomorrow, I guess tomorrow technically at this point, it's 2 in the morning, they are doing the final raid testing of Sanctum of Domination for the bosses that we haven't seen on Mythic, and Sylvanas on Heroic also being tested. I will have the footage on YouTube that night. I'm streaming also live on Twitch that day when it's happening, if you guys want to swing by. That will indeed, like I said, conclude all the testing for Heroic and all of Mythic, barring Mythic Sylvanas being tested. They're testing Heroic, they never test the final boss on Mythic. So depending where that all goes, 9.1, we'll see, hopefully sooner than later. With that being said, let's get into the video looking at trinkets. And oh yeah, by the way, have you guys met my son? And by my son, I meant this. I don't know if this is my son or maybe it's my father at this point. I'm actually not sure. Gorker's on his first cycle here. He'll be back to normal soon. Hopefully. He's having some problems with his flaps here, but yeah. So the trinkets we're going to be reviewing today, there are 8 of them. Now, this one here, Tome of Insight, I am actually not sure where it comes from. I did a bit of research and digging on stream. I can't find where this thing actually is dropping. I assume it's from a world boss. It's a baseline intellect trinket that has a chance to give you a decent amount of crit. I've looked at the world bosses though, and unless there's more than one in the new patch, there's this, which is this. There's no, I can't find this Tome of Insight anywhere. On Wowhead, all it says is it's a time walking trinket. I'm really not sure. So there might be more world bosses. I'm not really sure. Maybe they're not implemented as of yet. It does not drop from the raid though. It does not drop from Tazavesh. Tazavesh only has the like box trinket, the mail trinket, and it has this thing, which has been nerfed. We'll get to that in a little while. So putting this aside, it's fine. It's a baseline intellect crit proc trinket. It's upgradable only 6 times. Compared to other pieces that are upgradable more times with Valor. So I'm really not sure what to make of this trinket. You can see this one here we upgraded from the actual dungeon. You can upgrade it 12 times. This is only 6. It might be a world quest thing. I'm really not sure. A table, but either way, It's there. Number 2, we have a baseline mastery trinket with an intellect proc. This is pretty solid. This is from the world boss you're looking at, the one in the new zone. I forgot what the name of it, but it's from the world boss. Now, it's a baseline 226 item level, and it is not upgradable, which means that it might be good, like, where's this thing at? It might be good on the surface, but when you get into later prog and things, it's 233 here, to be fair. But when you get into later prog and things, it's not going to hold the same value as it might week 1, week 2, when you're replacing your early Castle Nathria trinkets, because 233 is the equivalent of Sire Denathrius gear. But once the raid opens up and you get into, like, you know, normal and even heroic, you have items dropping at 239. The final boss is dropping 246, and mythic is 255 or something like that, 259. So early on, might not be terrible. Might seem okay for certain classes, but I'm not crazy excited about this. I will say it's a lot of intellect. So once we get past those 2 trinkets, the other 6 here are actually the more interesting ones that I want to talk about. Minuscule Mailmental in an envelope. This is the one from Tazavesh, or I guess one of the 2 from Tazavesh, the new dungeon. It drops from the Mailroom Mayhem boss. And the cool thing about this trinket is that the damage it deals is actually really substantial. It's roughly 2,800 damage on a 210 trinket, which comparatively to this trinket from the Necrotic Wake, I think it's Plaguefall actually. Plaguefall? Yeah. It's roughly 1,900 damage at the same eye level. 1,900 damage versus 2,800 damage. There's a pretty big difference here. The actual raw value of the damage amp on this trinket reminds me a bit of Leviathan's lore. Now, this has baseline haste on it compared to the other one having intellect on it. Intellect is indeed more valuable most of the time than haste, but regardless, the damage is actually there, and this trinket's pretty strong. Unfortunately, when we went into testing it today, while I was really excited for it to test with Haunt or I guess with Affliction, because you have Haunt, UA, damage modifiers, all that stuff. When we went into our cooldowns playing this build here and tried to see what it could do, it does a good bit of damage. The average hits about 3k. But what we noticed, the longer we went outside of Rapture windows and things, is that this effect needs direct damage to proc. So that's going to be like a corruption application, because corruption deals damage whenever you apply it to your target. It's going to be Haunt, it's going to be a Rapture, but it's not Drain Soul. And we saw similar effects like this in BFA. I think it was Psyche Shredder that wouldn't proc off Drain Soul. Same with I don't think dots would proc it either. This effect does not proc off of dot ticks of dot applications unless it's corruption, because once again, corruption has that initial damage application tied to it now. Corruption, Haunt, Rapture, I guess just any kind of direct damage application ability would do it. But periodic damage, like dots, like Drain Soul, will not actually proc the effect. Now, it was sitting around like 3.5% in testing for us playing Drain Soul. My dots are falling here. We're not really doing a great rotation here. But even playing Drain Soul, the damage was respectable. When we ended up, geez, if you're melee, by the way, this is going to drive me crazy. It's so great. Please go live like this. When we ended up stopping to Nightfall means we have no more Drain Soul. It means Shadow Bolt is our filler. Shadow Bolt is a direct damage dealing spell. It's not Drain Soul, which is considered like a dot, a periodic channeled effect. When we swapped to Nightfall, our damage actually, it jumped from about 3.5%, 4% give or take in the test we did on stream to about 5.5%, 6%. At a certain point, it was actually beating Siphon Life, like tied with it and beating it at certain points when it came to actual damage. Now, Siphon Life means, Siphon Life is another dot to Rapture, so you're going to get more damage from Rapture. They're having that active. But the damage that it dealt was actually really impressive. Now, Destro can make good use of this trinket, I guess, if it's one of your options, because Destro is basically all just direct damage spells outside of your Immolate, and, you know, that's basically it. Demonology was in a weird spot, too, because it wasn't proccing off of pets. It procced off of Shadow Bolt cast and Hand Dance, but it wasn't proccing off of pets and other things, and you don't have the Haunt or Shadow's Embrace damage modifiers that Affliction does. So, I'll try and open here. Keep in mind that RNG is RNG, and with my luck, it's probably not going to work. But either way, my meters are even working, which is right. Meters, hello? Are working? Meters, hello? Hello? I swear, man, I wish these would work on beta. They just randomly get scuffed out of nowhere. Let's try it. All right, let's leave combat. Try it again. Come back. Maybe they'll work next time. Come on, come back. This thing is actually oh, we're working now. Great. Imagine if you worked off the bat. That'd be cool. Like a working add-on. We'll wait for dots to drop and give it a shot here. My apologies, boys. Either way, it reminds me a lot of Leviathan's lore. because Leviathan's lore had a lot of baseline damage attached to it. Now it also had a damage amp attached to it. Whenever it procced, you had I think a chance to proc it again, a higher chance. But this thing just deals a lot of damage off the bat. Let's try it now. Second time's a charm. Hey, we're working. Look at that. Legit. Awesome. So let's see how much damage it can actually deal inside of a dark lair window and all of that. We're playing synergy here. No Malefic Wrath. Pray for procs. One proc. One. But the big thing here, once again, Shadow Bolt spam. Whether you're playing Nightfall or not, just, I guess, either Nightfall or Drain Soul or ID, you're going to have more direct damage with your Shadow Bolt casts. So, barring RNG being a thing, it should theoretically deal more damage. And of course, RNG is not on my side. I guess it sort of can be. Over the course of time, without RNG being too bad, it will deal more damage than the Drain Soul build because Shadow Bolt is direct damage versus periodic damage. It ended up being about 5.9% in testing over the course of like a longer pull when we left our dark lair window and we had just dots rolling and we didn't have like rapture windows and all that coming up. Either way, not a bad trinket, a baseline equipped trinket with haste on it as well compared to intellect on like a infinitely divisible ooze. A trinket that's worth keeping your eye on for sure. This is also 210 eye level. This is not a huge 245 eye level 1 or however high this thing goes. It has potential. It's definitely worth keeping your eye on, whether it be for AF, Destra, or even Demo at times. It seems to be one of our better direct damage dealing proc based trinkets that we have access to in game. The next trinket here, the Forbidden Necromantic Tome. This thing is actually really cool. It drops from Kel'Thuzad, and keep in mind, KT is the second to last boss, the penultimate boss. KT and Sylvanas have higher eye levels, drop-wise, comparatively to everything else in the raid, similar to Castle Nathria. I believe even Nilotha was like that. Either way, it's a lot of baseline intellect with an equip that says your damaging spells have a chance to increase your crit by 80 for 15 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. The on-use effect here is really, really cool. Raise the remains of a fallen ally, this hail to warrior for 30 seconds on a 10-minute cooldown. Now you might be wondering what this looks like. I was as well. Take a look. All right, what does it even do? Half a minute, I'm a zombie. Okay, dude. This is sick. What are the abilities? 900 physical damage to target, slashes at target 3500 damage, and unleashes massive necrotic energy, dealing 7k plague damage to nearby enemies, obliterating your shambling remains. 8k? What do you mean? It hits for 3000. It hits pretty hard. Okay, dude. Okay, man. This is actually sick. And you explode, and that's pretty cool, dude. That's pretty sick. I like that, man. Yeah, that's actually pretty sick. The fact that you have 3 abilities you can control, one being like a melee, one being like a slash larger damage effect with a cooldown, and the final being some huge explosion before you're about to expire, is really, really cool. Now, I don't think this is going to be something that's so good if somebody in your raid dies, you want to use this before you just battle res them. But I would assume this gets around the battle res clause. If you don't have a soul stone or a whatever, any kind of battle res, I would assume this trinket still works, so you can get a bit of extra value when it comes to, I guess, people dying in raid and failing at mechanics or whatever. It's really cool either way. And the baseline part of the trinket is an equip one. It's not an on-use trinket. So that helps when it comes to having your one equip, one on-use set. So now the one question I had here when I was playing this trinket, we'll look for the actual proc here. I am sitting at 17% crit baseline with no, there's one proc there. We go to 19%. The one question that I had here, here's the proc, watch it for it to stack. There's 2 stacks, so we're at 21%. Was, can you maintain the 3 stack? Is there a way to maintain it? Or does it just reset? Does it fall off? There's your 3 stack. Now, we've tested this multiple times, probably about 25 different procs over the course of, I don't know, 10 minutes. Unfortunately, there have been 0 times where I've hit a 3 stack and refreshed the actual effect. Now, there's been times I hit a 1 stack and half a second later hit a 2 stack and it went 1, 2, 3, you know, but I have not been able to refresh the stack when it's at 3 stacks here. I'm 99.999% sure it just is impossible. It's coded that way to not refresh. It's a bit unfortunate. You can see it's at 3 stacks here again. It's a bit unfortunate because it amounts to about, I think, like 2.25% crit per stack. It's not crazy impressive. At 3 stacks, it's like 6.5–7% crit, which is not terrible. But the fact that you can't maintain it, I feel is sort of like an oversight, makes it a bit lackluster. I don't really think maintaining 7% crit would be that big of a deal. It's not like you're maintaining 40% haste or whatever. Like it seems like it's a bit of an oversight. I assume it's intended, but I feel like the power level of the trinket could be higher, or they could increase the actual crit chance, I guess crit value that this trinket gives. The on use is really cool, and it's a lot of baseline intellect, but without this being able to be maintained at 3 stacks, I'm not sure of the relevancy of the trinket in 9.1. It'll all come down to Sims, and once again, it is a higher eye level, so that could be a thing, but without it being able to be maintained. Now, there are a couple of equip trinkets that I want to cover here briefly because I need to wear one of them to show you guys the effects of the last two. The first one here is the Titanic Ocular Gland. This has, I'm 99.9% sure, been nerfed from its initial stat bonus effect, but it's still not horrendous. It drops from where you'd assume the Eye of the Jailer. While your health is above half, you're judged worthy, increasing your highest stat by 50%, or sorry, 127. And while you're below half health, you're judged unworthy, decreasing your stats by 127. Now, this is going to be better in a farm setting than progression, but at the same time, how often are you below half health in progression? I suppose it depends on the boss a bit. It sort of reminds me of the trinket from Gland. What was it? Whispers in the Dark? It sort of reminds me a bit of that. So I believe my highest stat is haste here when I put it on. Let's see. It should jump. Yeah, it's haste. So I gain roughly 4% haste, give or take, about there. Now, the really cool thing with this trinket is that it will stack and it'll change the actual effect. It's like retroactive with other trinkets here. We can look ahead a bit. Shattered orb fragments. I guess we can sort of transition into this. It's fine. This trinket, gaze into the orb, suffering 12,013k shadow damage over 2 seconds to increase your mastery by 268 for up to 40 seconds. The longer you gaze, the more tormented and insightful you become on a 2-minute cooldown. So number 1, 2-minute cooldown, mastery, affliction, dark glare, dark soul, all of that. 2-minute cooldown, technically every other tyrant it works out. 2-minute cooldown for Destro. Well, you know, Destro still is a weird spec with 3-minute Infernal, but it's still not terrible. The cool thing, number 1, the Titanic Ocular Gland, I have haste as my main stat right now. If I pop this to mastery, let's gaze into the orb, right? So, first of all, I was expecting a really cool visual. It's not really there, but let's pop it. There's your visual. Haste. Watch this change. It should change. There you go. So the actual Ocular Gland is retroactive. It'll change with other secondary stat increases that you have, and we do indeed have a 40-second duration on 270 mastery here. Now, let's say pop drums. It should theoretically change back, right? Lusting and stuff? Well, it doesn't. Because the drums are a percent stat increase. This is a actual numerical value being 268. So it'll shift if you gain a numerical value increase, but like a actual baseline percentage will not, from what I see, shift the Ocular Gland around. It's actually pretty cool. Now, the Shattered Orb of Torment is probably the on-use effect I am most excited about in the raid. Once again, it'll come down to Sims, and 13k shadow damage to yourself is actually a fair bit. It's roughly what, I guess about a third of my health pool, give or take. 28%, something like that. I don't know. Who cares? Either way, as long as I'm not dead. That's the important part, right? The cool thing with Shattered Orb of Torment is they're changing Imperial Ordnance in 9.1, for those of you who don't know. I forgot what they're doing exactly, but they made it so you can't use it with another unused trinket. It incurs like a double penalty or something along those lines. You can't go Imperial, wait for the actual orbs to come back for the intellect buff, and then pop your ruby or pop your cube or whatever. You can't play double on use with that. Now, this trinket lasts a maximum of 40 seconds, which means that you're going to incur, if you play 2 of these trinkets, you're going to pop your actual shadow orb, and you're going to incur, let's say you're playing a ruby. You'll incur the 20-second, cooldown on your ruby, but the cool thing is that this lasts 40 seconds, and ruby's actual baseline, I guess, buff is 16 seconds. So depending on the travel time back from the actual target with ruby, you're probably you'll have a full 16-second window roughly of mastery and crit value if you use this. Plus, I mean, you can still make a bit of use when it comes to like the initial mastery effect from this. It's not like it's going to waste completely. Like if we go into combat here, let's say put these dots up here, pop this, pop our Orb of Insight about now, give or take, full channel, just start chilling, right? Oh yeah, feels bad. Well, forgot about that one. Is this documented? Is this a documented change? Hey, we learn things while we're going. I thought, did Blizzard actually do this? This is sort of awkward, but over the course of streaming everything today, we didn't notice this once. I didn't actually test them together. Did Blizzard actually make it a 40-second cooldown for any double unused combination? That's so crappy, dude. That's so crappy. What do they have against double unused trinkets? It's supposed to be a 20-second cooldown, not 40. Okay, dude. Okay. Either way, I guess we can't double unuse them. But even outside of that, a 40-second duration on this trinket with that much mastery is pretty impactful. Yeah, you might have to pick and choose your spots depending on what you're doing in raiding, because 13k is, you know, a fair bit of health, and it also will go higher depending on the actual eye level of it. The highest mastery buff you get is not 268. I believe it's 305, something like that. Where's this from? 304. I was close. 304. Either way, it's a really cool effect, and quite possibly might end up being just your best on use trinket this coming tier, depending where Ruby lands. Ruby is still very strong. It has not been nerfed like Cube, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But depending where everything lands, Shadowed Orb of Torment is definitely a trinket that I have my eye on. Baseline intellect, a lot of mastery. It's honestly just pretty solid. The last two trinkets here, one is equip based, sort of, and the other one is on use. Both are pretty unique and have pretty cool interactions. So Leia's secret technique. This is the trinket, the other one from Tazavesh. I believe it's from the final boss. This trinket was really good up until this build when they nerfed the crap out of it. I believe it had roughly a 240 like mains, or I guess secondary stat increase for you. Use select a player in your party or raid, granting them 24 of their highest secondary stat. So it gives somebody like a tiny bit of stats, which is nice, and granting you 120 of that same stat for 30 minutes. So it's an unused trinket, but it's really an equipped trinket, right? Now, I believe the actual value for you, the player, this is upgraded to 12 out of 12. I believe used to be 240 or so, give or take, 210, roughly about twice this. It was nerfed by a substantial bit, either this build or the previous build. The other thing, it had a second paragraph on this effect. It said that if you target yourself, meaning like, hey, if you're not in a group or a raid or whatever, it would give you a portion of those secondary stats. It wouldn't give you the whole amount, but it would give you less. So it made it sort of like, okay, we can play this and, you know, when we're on our own questing, doing whatever. Well, that's gone. The fun effect is gone. The trinket is fine. It's still solid. 120 of I guess their highest secondary stat. Let's be honest here. You can choose who you put it on, right? So you're probably going to have 120 of whatever stats you want, whether it's haste, crit, mastery, or verse. At 246, this is about the same as a 226 Titanic Ocular Gland. They both have intellect on them. Obviously, this is lower because of 226 eye level versus 246. There's potential here, because it's not just you're buffing, albeit 24 secondary stats is pretty low, but it's still an equip-based trinket with a good bit of secondary stat. And it's not like Titanic Ocular Gland. If you drop below half health, you lose the stat and actually punish. This is just a permanent 120 secondary stats. So I don't think it's terrible. It's not a horrendous option. It's still out there. We have to wait and see where it lands in Sims, but it has been nerfed substantially. I have to see where it goes. The final effect here, this is actually really cool. Tome of Monstrous Constructions. Okay. Use. Study the tome for 2 seconds, learning the weakness of your targeted enemy. Your damaging abilities have a very high chance, spoilers ahead, it's not a very high chance, either way, to deal 467 shadow damage to your studied foe. Studying a new enemy removes the benefit of any prior studies on a 1 minute cooldown. It's very wordy, but essentially, you can target a mob. Let's say this training dummy. We'll study the mob. We've studied the dummy. It does not debuff it, but it gives you a buff. Damage increase against the studied target. Target implies singular. It implies one, the target you've actually studied, but it does not apply a debuff. So my first question was, do just baseline dots put on passive proc the effect? They do. You can see it here increasing 1.4k. Proc again somewhere. Proc again. Proc again. Proc again. Oh, we're out of combat. Proc again. We'll enter combat. Try and keep refreshing dots here. Let's see. We're at 1.4k. Okay, now bugged out. I swear, man, I wish I had a working version of details on PTR, dude. Like, I don't understand. Can we get to work now? Redot? Let's go. All right, just dots are rolling. All I'm gonna do is keep applying agony to stay in combat. It should proc here. There we go. There's a proc. So it does indeed proc off of just straight up dot ticks. We're applying agony over and over. Agony does not have any kind of initial application damage, so it's fine. It does indeed proc off of baseline dot ticks. Now, when it comes to an actual like opener in full-on rotation, I was not incredibly impressed with the damage that it dealt. It was, I believe, around like 3.5%, give or take. We can do an opener here for the most part and see, but it was somewhere around like 3.5%, which was not incredibly impressive. But once again, I mean, depending on the option that you have available to yourself, it might be okay-ish. Procs here, 5%, 4%, dropping more and more, dropping 4.1, 4, give or take. It doesn't appear there's any kind of ICD on it, because I've had it proc basically back to back a couple of times. But it's really hard to watch with there being multiple dot effects and then rolling at once. Playing Destro might give you a bit of a better, I guess a better like general look at how often it procs. But either way, it was around 3%, give or take, in testing. Now, once again, RNG is RNG, and the testing was as Destro, not as AF. AF has Haunt, Shadows, Embrace modifiers. We're playing Haunt here, so damage will indeed be a little higher. It's fine. But somebody asked, does this trinket actually work in AoE? Now, the wording on it implies that it won't, because it says target. But I said, let's give it a shot. All these three have the same name, so we'll change it to a Raider Strain dummy. We've studied it. We will mark all three of them. We'll go skull, we'll go square, if I can do it properly, and we will go, let's go diamond. I like diamonds. Why not? So yeah, we technically marked the skull right here. Watch the combat log. All I'm going to do is put up dots. So watch for the first proc. Okay, proc right there, right? Studious comprehension hits the skull, right? Keep waiting. Proc on diamond right there. And it has a chance to also proc on the square. So it seems like if it is a mob that has the same name as the mob you studied, albeit 3 Raiders training dummies, it has the chance to proc on other mobs with the same name. The trinket's very odd. The thing is, it doesn't seem to scale very well in multi-target stuff. It's fine, but it wasn't anything to write home about. It was about 3.5%, give or take. So the effect is cool. It's exciting. I didn't see any crazy value in it. It seems like the trinket from Tazavesh is probably just better, single target damage wise. And as far as like AoE implications go in Mythic Plus, there's not many packs, I don't feel, where you have multiples of the same mob. You might have some like in Theater of Pain, like in the Abomination Wing, but there's not a whole lot of trash packs I feel that have multiples of the same mob, where number one, you're going to be able to actually channel this trinket and then actually open up, get dots rolling before everything dies. I just don't think the relevancy is there in AoE, and it didn't seem as good as the actual Tazavesh trinket in single target. And even outside of the Tazavesh trinket, I think there are more just stronger, solid effects that are available to you, whether it be a Ruby or a Shadow Orb or a Titanic Ocular Guard or something else. It's a fun trinket, but I don't think at this point in time, tuning wise, it's going to be anything that's crazy impressive. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video gave you all a better understanding of how trinkets, I guess, are currently looking at this point in time, heading into 9.1, Sanctum of Domination, and Tazavesh. Now, forgive me if I'm a little short in this video in certain segments. I had to re-record each segment like 5 times due to details not working, trinkets not working, random effects happening it shouldn't be happening, so my apologies. But hopefully the video was insightful. Any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Any weak ORS profiles or add-ons you can grab for free off my Twitch if you want to. Discord link also down below. They're also indeed available in there. Now, I don't know where the trinkets are going to end up landing sim-wise, DPS-wise, because there's a lot of unique interactions, once again, like with a Titanic Ocular Eye, maybe pairing it with a Haste Trinket versus a Mastery Trinket. Things can change, or a Crit Trinket, maybe pairing it with a Ruby. Things can change a good bit, so we're probably going to have to wait for sims. At this point, I've checked, and trinkets don't appear to be implemented in Simcraft. Hopefully over the next week, few days, whatever, what have you, we will indeed have that, and then we'll actually know more. The Shadow Orb looks really strong. A 40-second duration on that amount of mastery looks pretty good. Titanic Ocular Eye looks pretty solid as well, but it's going to depend a lot on progression, what fights you're on, I guess how often you're below half health. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, dudes. If you want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, be sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons below. Much love, dudes. Thank you again, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.